we have Swami Nirakaranandaji Maharaj with us today. He is presently serving in our Vedanta Society of St. Louis, USA. And he's not new to Mysore. About 6-7 years ago, he had come and addressed the pre-university students in the same prayer hall. He stayed in our Mysore center, Mysore Ashrama, for a few years. It was about 7 years? 3 years in Mysore Ashrama, and conducted the worship of Sri Ramakrishna in our shrine in the ashrama. After that, he has been serving for a long time, 17 years in Vedanta Society of St. Louis, USA. Which state is it?
Missouri.
Missouri state in USA. I and Swami Nirakaranandaji stayed together in Belur Math during our training center for 2 years, 1999 to 2001. He joined at our center in near London, Bourne End, if I am right. And I very vividly remember him in that Belur Math setting. Extreme climate, different food. People going from South India, when they find it difficult to adjust to the food and climate in Belur Math. Think of a person who had stayed outside India and joined in our London center and coming to Belur Math for the compulsory training 2 years as brahmacharis we were there. And I remember him taking so much of keen interest in studies, Sanskrit, Vedanta, Yogasana, singing. He learned singing with the harmonium, and he could sing some Bengali songs there when we were in Belur Math. Everywhere, whatever he did, very thorough, lot of interest. So he was here in Mysore now. We requested if we can address our pre-university students, because the high school students are having their exams after 3 days, Maharaj. So we thought you will address here. Last time also we addressed our pre-university students, telling them about some of the important concepts of Vedanta. I request Swami Nirakaranandaji to address all of you. They're all 11th and 12th grade students. 12th grade students have, of course, their public examination, and they are also to prepare for competitive exams. They're all science, students of science, all of them. And they have to write very competitive examinations in order to get into engineering stream, that is the Indian Institute of Technology, IITs, the all-India level examination, and also for the medical science, even more stiff competition. Of course, they write other exams also to get into the engineering stream or other streams in Karnataka. But mainly for very prestigious college and this engineering and medical, they have to compete at the national level. So they go through all the rigors of their preparation. Now they are going through the lessons, coaching, so many other things. Message for them and about the center, the little about the center and whatever, if it can interest them and inspire them. We leave it to you, Maharaj, whatever you feel to be interesting for them, some incidents, how the things go on out there, from your experience of dealing with people like that. We request Swami Nirakaranandaji to address all of you. We heartily welcome him on behalf of Vidyashala.
Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Thank you, Swamiji, for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to be visiting Mysore after eight years. That was the last time I visited. So let us talk a little about the usefulness, you can say, the usefulness of Vedanta or spirituality. Here you get an education, but you get much more than that also. When you come to a place like Ramakrishna Vidyashala, it's not just an ordinary school. You are getting so many more things than plain secular education. So when you look at the world and the different cultures, the different countries, you find that there are differences. Each culture has a different understanding of the world. And why is that? Why the West is different from the East, etc. There was an American philosopher in the 19th century. His name was Henry David Thoreau. He made a very interesting statement. He said, "It does not matter what you look at. What matters is what you see." So it may sound cryptic. What does this statement mean? What you look at is not important. What matters is what you see. Now suppose you say, well, you are looking at the mic, you see the mic. You are looking at the camera, you see the camera. What's the big deal? Well, it's not as simple as that. That what you look at is what you see. There is something called selective attention or selective perception. I don't know if any of you have seen a video on YouTube. So there was a study many years ago about this bias we all have, that we will select to see some things and we will filter out other things. And we do this subconsciously, not deliberately. So the test is like this. There are two teams on a basketball court, one with a white shirt, the other one is wearing a black shirt, and they're passing the ball. So they tell you, you look at the video, and all you have to do is count how many times the team with the white shirt passes the ball. So it's a very easy exercise. You look, so the teams will be moving in the court, and you pay attention to the white team. How many times do they pass the ball? So at the end of the video, they say, okay, if you counted 15, then congratulations, that is correct. So when I watched it, I was very happy. I counted 15, so I was correct. But then they asked one more question. They asked, did you see the gorilla? And I was very surprised. I did not see the gorilla. So I had to replay the video, and then I found that in the middle of the video, one person in a gorilla costume walks slowly to the center of the court, looks at the camera, and goes like this, like the gorillas do, looking at the camera, and then slowly moves away. I never saw the gorilla. I was looking at it. I was looking at it, and I never saw it. So Thoreau, long ago, he figured this out. And he said, what matters is not what you look at. What matters, what is important is what you see. The gorilla was right in front of me, and I didn't see it because I was not paying attention to it. So that's called selective perception or selective attention, and we all have it. We all are seeing part of what we look at. So we are looking at this world. What do we see? Will depend on where our focus is. If you are looking for peace and joy, you will find it because it's there in this world. If you are looking for success, you will find it. If you are looking for your own self advantage, you will find it as well. So Vedanta tells us, if you're looking for God, you will find it. It's the same world. A worldly person is looking at the same world, and they only see matter. They only see death and change. The spiritual person will look at the same world, and they find God. They find consciousness. They find peace. So that is a very deep teaching that comes from the Western tradition, but is very similar to what Vedanta teaches, that it doesn't matter what you look at, what matters is what you see. So according to what we see will be the result. You're all familiar with the 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So these are all there out in the world. Are you looking for Kama? You can get it. Are you looking for Artha, Dharma, Moksha? They are all there. So in the West, the stress is on Kama, Artha. And because the West has gone so deep in the search for this Kama and Artha, they have lost sight of Dharma. And they have no idea about moksha. So that is something that you have in India, the idea of moksha. Their idea of heaven is something not very clear. After you die, you go to heaven, but it's not very clear. In Vedanta, there is a very clear understanding of what moksha means. So when Swami Vivekananda, he came to the West, he could understand the Western perspective, how they look at the world. And of course he was from India, so he had the Indian perspective, how the Indian people look at the world. So he found that both sides could benefit from coming together. Because he said that in India, though the spiritual tradition is very strong, and there is an understanding of what moksha means, it had degenerated. And many people, in the name of moksha, they were just leading a lazy life. So this is samsara, it is unreal. Why should you pay any attention to it? So Swamiji said, no. You have desires, and you are just being lazy. So Swamiji said, work out your desires through dharma, and then you can attain moksha. And then when he came to the West, he also told the people of the West what they could improve. He said, you have gone too far in the search for enjoyment, and money. So you have to get an understanding of moksha. This world, this life is not just for money and success and enjoyment. So Swami Vivekananda believed that when we can get the best of both philosophies, the best of both perspectives, you can live a happy, fulfilled life in this world. So how to do that? How to combine it? You see, I have seen many former students of our schools. Some of them become very successful, but they don't benefit spiritually from the opportunity they got at our schools. So they will get plenty of money, they will get plenty of whatever they want, and there it ends. There is no more. So they feel, I have succeeded, I have a good job, I have a good income, I am successful. There are other ex-students who also do the same thing, but they go beyond, and they preserve the ideas that they heard here at the school, that life is not just about success. Life is not just about fulfilling our desires. There is more to life than just secular success. So these students, I find, they are the most successful. They have been able to succeed materially in their career with a good job, with a good income, but also spiritually by keeping up these ideas, continuing their spiritual search. You need both. To have a fulfilled life, you need both. If we only hold on to the spirit, to the material side for just career success, life becomes very difficult. You may not understand it now, but with the passing of the years, life becomes more and more complicated. You need to hold on to something. And the career is not good enough. You need something deeper. So this is a blessing that you're getting here in this atmosphere with these teachings, that you're getting a good education, but also that other aspect of life, a spiritual dimension to your life. Yes, be successful, study hard, work hard, and be successful, and fulfill all your desires. You cannot have moksha if you still have desires. So there is nothing wrong. Fulfill your desires. You want to be successful, be successful. Here the Swamis are not telling you to put on a kaupin and go to the forest. Be successful, but do not neglect the spiritual dimension of your life. Then you get real success. You get spiritual success and secular success. So we are all trying to be happy. That applies whether you're a Swami or a student or a teacher. Buddha said that this is the common thing in everybody's life. All beings, whether you take a bird, a worm, a human being, all beings are trying to do two things: avoid pain and attain happiness. That's all we're trying to do. So happiness is different from pleasure. And here you get a training to appreciate real happiness. Yes, there is pleasure and there is pain, but there is also real happiness, which is deeper. Sri Krishna says in the Gita that there are three types of Ananda. The first one is worldly happiness. You have a piece of cake and you enjoy. Even a baby can understand that type of happiness. We don't need any training. The moment you see the cake, you want to eat it. It gives you joy. Then you have the spiritual happiness. But Sri Krishna says, first is bitter, and then it becomes sweet. We have to train ourselves to appreciate the spiritual happiness. So what is an example of the spiritual ananda? One example would be that you can say, I am happy with my life. I am happy with myself. I am at peace with myself. That is much deeper than saying, I enjoyed a piece of cake. I am contented with myself. I am at peace with myself. In order to be able to say that, we have to work hard. It won't come overnight. So we train ourselves little by little to appreciate this higher happiness that has nothing to do with the happiness of the senses. So Buddha said, all beings are trying to do this. They're trying to be happy and trying to avoid suffering. But then there is lower happiness and higher happiness. And higher type of happiness, which is long-lasting, requires training. So here you're getting an opportunity and a very congenial atmosphere to be able to appreciate what true happiness means, what true happiness is, and how to achieve it. It's a lifelong process. It doesn't end when you become a Swami. It doesn't end when you become a doctor. It doesn't end when you become an engineer. It continues throughout our lives. We are struggling to be happy, but we should learn the lesson that happiness is not out there. Happiness is within us. We have to find it. It is up to us. Nobody can do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. So Swami Vivekananda, he wanted us to be very enthusiastic. Be very enthusiastic. Work hard. Study hard. But don't neglect this deeper essence within you, the self, the Atman. That is what you can hold on to later in life. When life becomes complicated, you can retreat to your heart. That is your center of gravity. There you are strong. It's like a tree. If a tree has deep roots, then the winds will not shake it. So this spiritual strength that we can develop, that is our greatest asset, more than any academic achievement. To be spiritually strong. You have the strength of the body, that is very good. We train to be strong physically, to be healthy. Then you have the strength of the mind, buddhi balam. You train to be mentally strong, to be able to study hard, to hold your concentration for a long time. That's not enough. You need atma balam, the spiritual strength. The spiritual strength is most important. That is our ultimate resource. That is our ultimate refuge. If you have this atma balam, all the other strength follows naturally. You will be physically strong, mentally strong. So Swami Vivekananda wanted we should be very enthusiastic and try to cultivate these three. Be physically strong, be mentally strong, and be spiritually strong. And if you fail to be strong in all this, doesn't matter, you continue. You have to struggle. We cannot become perfect overnight. We have to try again and again and again. And gradually you will find, just like when you go to the gym, you become stronger, You can see your muscles developing, and you can see that what used to be very painful and very hard becomes easy through training. Just like you develop your intellect and you can do more and more difficult solve mental problems, in the same way we can train ourselves to be spiritually stronger day by day. And that is the best thing we can do with our lives. So, what else, Swamiji? That is, that is some Vedantic ideas to think about.
Something about a center in St. Louis.
Yes. So the center in St. Louis. Well, the centers in the West in general are very different from the centers in India. Here you will find big schools, big hospitals, and lots of swamis and brahmacharis, and a lot of devotees and lots of activities. But in our Western centers, you will find the small centers, and they are quiet. And you will find 1, 2, 3, 4 swamis if you're lucky. So devotees also not so many. We don't have any schools, we don't have any hospitals. So it's a different setup. It is a more contemplative life. It is more towards really meditation, study, and that is the focus. So in the Western countries, we are not part of the mainstream society, like involved in social work. Our work is preaching and teaching and meditating and offering a special atmospheres for those who want to practice these things. They can come to the Vedanta Society, they can come to our centers and enjoy that atmosphere, that quietness, that spiritual presence. So that is the main thing there. In St. Louis, we are a publication center, so we publish many books in English. They are sold all over the world, and that is our main contribution. So in St. Louis, we are 4 swamis at the moment, and we are lucky, you can say. Normally, most centers is just 1 swami, 1 or 2 at the most, yes. Some big centers also have only 1 swami. Yeah. Yeah. So in India, what I feel is the Vedanta, the Ramakrishna mission is booming. It is growing very fast, exponentially. More and more centers are being affiliated all the time. And in the West it's growing, but slowly. It's a different pace. We are growing, but at a different pace. So hopefully in future, as the world becomes smaller and smaller with technology and everything, the work in India and the work abroad will become one. That will be ideal, that the Western centers become more active and some Indian centers become more quiet. That is also, that sometimes too much activity is easy to lose sight of our priorities. So that would be ideal when we can unify the work in abroad and the work in India. It will come in course of time. So does anybody have any question?
Chasing desires will lead you to sadness. So
Chasing desires will lead you to
sadness.
sorrow. Okay.
Sadness. So, we should chase our desires for right fulfillment.
Well, you have to, so let me see if I understood the question correctly. Buddha said that running after desires ends in sorrow. And we just said that you can fulfill your desires, right? Isn't there a contradiction? That's the question? Very good. I don't see any contradiction. It all depends on the context. Who are you talking to? Who is listening? So Buddha was a world teacher. He came to give a message to the whole. So You take humanity as a whole and you want to give a message for all. What is the ultimate truth for all of humanity? So Buddha is a world teacher. He's talking to you, me, and everybody else, even those who have not been born yet. He's talking to them as well, future generations. So Buddha says that running after desires ends in sorrow, and that is true. That is true. On the other hand, we are stuck with our desires. You can't get rid of them. So what Buddha said is 100% true, but this is the world of Maya. And desire is an expression of Maya. It all starts with avidya, ignorance. It is because we are ignorant of our true nature that we have desires. So it will not do to just say, okay, I shouldn't have desires. They will remain. If you're hungry and you say, my stomach is full, my stomach is full, you're still hungry. So it's no use to say my stomach is full, I'm not hungry, if you're hungry. So if we are hungry, well, we have to eat. So if you have desires, you have to fulfill them. But what Buddha said is true. Chasing desires ultimately ends in sorrow. So what is the solution? The solution is to bring spirituality into your life. These desires are not everything in this life. I have desires. I have to be honest with myself. If I have a desire, I have to be honest with myself. If I'm hungry, I have to say, hey, I'm hungry. That is the truth. At the same time, I can say, okay, I can detach myself from my desire and I can look at it objectively. I have a desire, but this is not the end of life. Life is something else. Yes, I will work out my desires. I will find a way to work them out. But this is not why I am here in this world. So if we have that understanding, then it will be okay. So you have to have desires. Sri Ramakrishna, you will find in his life, once a devotee came to him. He had a family with kids. And he said, sir, I want to live with you. I'll come and stay here and I will meditate. Sri Ramakrishna said, you rascal, who is going to feed your wife? Who is going to feed your kids? You will repeat God's name, you will sit there and repeat God's name, and your neighbors are going to maintain your family? Go back. So, we cannot avoid. We have desires and obligations. We have our duties as well. So they say there are two reasons why we are born in this world. One is our desires. It is because of our desires that we have come to this world. The second one is our debts. We have debts to pay. And that is why we have come to this world, to pay our debts. So to fulfill our desires and to pay our debts. If we didn't have desires, we wouldn't be born. So I don't see a contradiction. Buddha was a world teacher, and what he said is true in a general sense. But the solution is work out your desires, surrender to God, remember God. It is who has given us the desires? God is the Divine Mother who is running the show. So God is running the show of this world. And God is saying, I'll give you this desire, I'll give you this desire, and the Divine Mother is having fun with us. We are just like puppets. So we have to acknowledge our own condition, surrender to God, and trust that God knows what is best for us.
That there's a difference between looking at things and seeing it. So certainly it's not just what we look at and what we choose to see, but certainly what also other people see impacts our life in some or the other way. So how do you actually manage between these stuff?
I cannot understand the question. You have to phrase it a little differently.
Swamiji, we choose to see right. there's a difference between, as you said, looking at things and seeing the right stuff and choosing the stuff. But it's not only what you see. Your life also depends on what people see and what their response is. So how do you manage between these stuff?
Yes, I mean, we have control
only over ourselves. What other people see is beyond our control. Suppose, if you're a spiritual person, you can say, I want to love everybody. I don't want to hate anyone. That's a sign of a spiritual person. A spiritual person will try to love all beings. Now, suppose somebody does not want to love you. There's nothing you can do. Okay, you can love them, but you cannot force them to love you. So, from your position, you do the best you can. You can love everybody. To come back to the previous example, there is love and there is hate in this world. There is good and there is evil in this world. There's no question about that. You can focus on one or the other. So as a spiritual person, you try to see good in others. You try to love all beings. You try to serve them. But then if others want to hate, if others want to be unfriendly, we can pray for them, we can reason with them, but eventually it is beyond our control. They are free to do whatever they want. So, there is like two parts of the equation. What we do and what others do. We have control over what we do. And that much. So if a person wants to be rude to me, I have control over my reaction. But I cannot prevent them from being rude. If they want to be rude, they will be rude. My control is over my reaction. I can be nice to them. They can be rude, I can be nice. Yes.
Swamiji, a few minutes before you said that you need to sacrifice your luxuries, in other words, a desire, in order to attain salvation. And again, you also said that God has sent us to this planet with some desires. So how can we manage both the things? For example, if we want to fulfill our desire, then we cannot attain salvation. And vice versa the other way. So how can we fulfill both of them?
Okay. So it's a matter of time, according to Vedanta. We have desires, we have to find a way to get rid of them, either through fulfillment or some other way. But eventually we'll get moksha. So why life is so confusing? Life seems to make no sense. Life is very confusing. Why? It's because of this. We want moksha, but there is these desires standing in the way. So yes, it seems to be contradictory, but as I said earlier, you can't dismiss the desires. They are there. So what happens is, life after life, Vedanta says we come to this world again and again and go through the same experiences and fulfill the same desires until we get disgusted. I have done this so many times, enough. Now I really want moksha. So it's a matter of time. Sri Ramakrishna said everybody will be liberated. Everybody will be fed. Somebody will be fed in the morning, someone in noontime, someone in the evening. Nobody will go hungry. So everybody will be liberated. That is, Vedanta is very positive. Nobody will be condemned to be in hell or anywhere else. So it's a matter of time. We come back to this world again and again and go through the same experiences. And eventually we say, no more. No more. I have done this. It's not that we may remember, but there is a desire from the heart that this is not for me. Somehow, this is not what I want. So this is what happens. Yes, God gives us the desires, and then we come to this world and play this game, and eventually God says, okay, my child, you've had enough of your desires. Now if you want, I can give you moksha, fine, finish. you get moksha. So it's all for a saint, an illumined soul, they see the world in a different way. Once somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, "Sir, is there free will?" So this is a very common question in philosophy. Is there free will? Or everything is done by God? Now Sri Ramakrishna's answer was very interesting. He said, so long as we are in ignorance, there is free will. When we become illumined, we realize there is no such thing as free will. The illumined soul perceives that it is God that is doing everything in this world. The saint behaves like a saint because God makes them behave so. And the sinner a criminal behaves like a criminal because it is God that is making him do that. So the illumined soul sees very clearly that it is God that is doing all this. But when we are in ignorance, we have the feeling that we have free will. And we feel responsible. So it's a very interesting answer from Sri Ramakrishna. Yes?
As you said, God adds some ideas to our head, right? He adds desire to our head. It means He writes our destiny, our fate. If everything is written in our fate, then why should we expect for something in our life?
Yes, well, you see, imagine there is a movie, okay? You want to watch a movie. Now the movie has been made already. The end is already set. The movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and now it is released, and you go and watch it. Now, because the end is already settled, will you stop watching it? No, you still watch the movie. So, everything is set by God, but we still want to enjoy this life. So, you don't know the end of it is set, you're right, it is already done, God has decided everything. But you want to find out, what is the end of the movie? Huh? Yes, it is said, but I don't know. Yeah.
It means that God had written that I'll ask you a question tonight. Then why should I expect that I should ask you a question?
You don't expect anything. You see, there is more than one way to look at this world. Huh? There is Vyavaharika and Paramarthika. So Vyavaharika means our level, the practical level, the level of ignorance. Paramarthika means the level of the highest truth, the level of Swami Vivekananda, how they see the world. They see that it is God that is doing everything. But we don't see that. We see that it is ourselves that are doing everything. So we shouldn't mix these two. There is a higher perspective from the saint that says everything is done by God, and there is a lower perspective that says, I don't know, I'm doing my best, I'll ask a question and see what the answer is. So, we know there are two ways to look at it. We shouldn't mix them up. So one way is the saint, and the other way is ordinary people like us. We don't know the end of the movie, we want to see it. We want to know the answer. So we have desires and we fulfill them, and then we find out what next.
Spiritual person would rather try to love a person who is even being a brute to him. But then we have got some incidents in Sri Ramakrishna's life where there's the same incident in two of his disciples' life, and he suggests to do some other thing. I don't exactly boat incident.
Yes.
Is that he does that, and there's one more story about the snake. Some people want to hitting the snake, and some saint would have said him not to bite, so it ends up dying, and then he says, I told you not to bite, but
it doesn't die. Severely wounded, injured.
So then the saint says, I told you not to bite, but then I didn't ask you not to hiss. So how do you think we can apply this to our lives?
Well, it is true. I mean, Sri Ramakrishna, he was always in samadhi, and at the same time he was so practical. He understood that being spiritual doesn't mean you have to be goody-goody and yes, whatever you say, no. Sometimes you have to say, no, I disagree. This is not right. Like Sri Krishna in the Gita. He said to Arjuna, fight. Kill them. It is your dharma. So sometimes you have to fight. You have to stand for what is true. If somebody is doing something wrong, and because you're spiritual, you say, okay, whatever you do is fine, No. So Swami Vivekananda says, who can practice ahimsa? According to Swami Vivekananda. You can only practice ahimsa when you have the strength to give a blow and defeat the other person. If we are weak, then that ahimsa is not true. We are just weak. And we are telling it is ahimsa, I don't want to hurt them. The fact is, I cannot hurt them. And I call it ahimsa. So when you have the power to strike and hurt the other person, and you don't, by choice, that is ahimsa. So Sri Ramakrishna said, you have to be strong. You have to stand for truth and dharma. At the same time, don't hurt anybody. Don't go that far. Just make a show of strength. Stand your ground. But don't get involved in harming others. And the other examples that you mentioned about two disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, you all have heard the stories. So one of them was very mild-mannered, very gentle soul, and Sri Ramakrishna advised him to be strong. And the other one was very strong and assertive, and Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you have to be very gentle, don't be harsh. This is a sign of a true guru. A true teacher can see the nature of the disciple and prescribe the right medicine. Sri Ramakrishna had that insight. He could see the nature of people and give them advice accordingly. So that is how we can put it into practice. We have to be strong, at the same time not go too far. Make a show of strength, but don't hurt anybody.
Swami Vivekananda told that man is the maker of his own destiny. But a few minutes ago you just told that God creates our destiny. Can you please justify that?
Yeah, again, we come back to the same point, that there are two ways to look at this world. One is the highest point of view, and one is the lowest point of view. So from the highest point of view of the illumined soul, it is only God that is doing everything. But from the lower point of view, we are the maker of our own destiny. We have to take the responsibility for our actions. We cannot say, God is doing everything, I'm just, surrendering to God. That will not work. So, maker of your own destiny means you take responsibility. Suppose you say, I come to Vidyashala to study, and you say, no, I'll wait for God to do it for me. No. You have to study. There's no way out. So, you're the maker of your own destiny. If you study, you will succeed. And if you don't, you will fail. So, it's very clear that we are the makers of our own destiny. Now, from the higher point of view, when you succeed, Sri Ramakrishna will say, it is the Divine Mother that made you succeed. And when you fail, Sri Ramakrishna will say, it is the will of the Divine Mother. But that is their perspective. From our perspective, we have to be responsible and try our best.
In abroad, near the centers, can you stay in the centers?
It depends on the centers. In some centers, you may be able to stay. And in some centers, they may not have accommodation. Some centers so it's very hard to predict. We have in St. Louis one student who is staying with us. But if he had come 5 years ago, we would have said no. He has come at this time, in this particular time, he could join us. So it depends on many factors. It depends on the work, it depends on the center, the infrastructure, and the group of people living there. You cannot generalize. It really depends. Yeah, but certainly everybody can come and help and get involved. But living there is a different story. And sometimes even for the student it may not be convenient, like it may be very far from the school and there is no public transport. In many cities in the US you need a car. You cannot travel without a car from point to point in the city. There are very few buses and public transport. So all these things have to be taken into account.
You enjoyed listening to Swamiji and also the question answer session. Can you guess which country Swamiji belongs to? Home country? Russia. Ireland. Then Australia. Oh, multiple choice question. Can I tell them?
No, let us see. Keep going.
Keep going. Switzerland. India, no. Egypt, no.
Try to think out of the box.
Huh? Canada. Germany. You saw
I am from Argentina.
There are football players and football lovers, so this was an interesting question for them. Swamiji's home country was Argentina, and then I told you he joined in our center in England, Bourne End. There is an area named Bourne End, London, very close to London. Is it close to Wimbledon? Bourne End Center, Wimbledon?
Been by there?
No, Wimbledon. Wimbledon's.
I don't know. It's close to Windsor.
Windsor.
Windsor Castle, where the Queen stays.
Okay. Anyway, I hope you are able to understand a few points. Swamiji started with looking at and seeing. Can they see that YouTube, this one? What is that YouTube?
That is the... maybe you can Google like a selective attention gorilla video, something like that.
He is happy to know that gorilla can make you happy. Anyway, after that, looking at and seeing, the selective perception, all those things, Swamiji also told you about the 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama and moksha, and how the Eastern and Western perspectives differ, how Swamiji wanted us to take the best of both without neglecting material progress and spiritual progress. Many of your questions, what you asked about destiny or free will, all those things, Swamiji clearly pointed out it is 2 different levels of thinking. We have to evolve to the higher level of thinking. Only then we will be able to understand. When you heard Swamiji telling that everything happens as per the will of God, as destined by God, initially many of us get confused, perplexed. There was a question to Sri Ramakrishna, same thing. If everything is done by God, then I am not responsible for my wrong things. ನಾ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ದೇವ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡೋದು, ದೇವ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು. I am not responsible for my wrongdoings. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. See, if you eat chilies, mensinkai, you will definitely have the burning sensation in your mouth. That means to say, if you do the wrong thing, you will have to experience the bad fruit of that wrong deed. But once you go up, once you evolve, then you will not do anything wrong. That is why that level of perspective and perception is very different. One is very high. And one more place, Swami Vivekananda says, you must have heard the English proverb, God helps those who help themselves. In one of the talks with Swami Vivekananda, the book is that he says, God helps those who do not help themselves. I don't know, how do you understand this? If we are lazy, God will come to our help. God helps those who help themselves, first level here. God helps those who do not help themselves. Is such a evolved person where he has understood, he has surrendered his everything to God. God is his be all and end all. ಸರ್ವಸ್ವವು ಪರಮಾತ್ಮ ಅಂತ ನಂಬ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋನು, ಅಷ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆದಿರುವಂಥ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ಅವನ ಕೈಲಿ ಏನೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾದ ಪರಮಾತ್ಮ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ನ ಕೈಲಿ ಏನಾದ ಸೋಮಾರ್ತಾನೆ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಮಿಸ್ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವರ್ ignorance and laziness. That should not be. Such questions will definitely come to you. You should be able to think properly, listen to such things and think properly, and read also. One word about the St. Louis Center. The head of the center, minister in charge of Vedanta Society of St. Louis, is Swami Chetanananda Ji Maharaj. How many of you have seen some books about that, written by that Swamiji? Anybody can name one book? It is in our library. God lived with them is one book. It is the life stories of the 16 direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. They lived with God. God lived with them. They lived with God. Is the life stories of other devotees who used to come to Sri Ramakrishna, householder devotees. How to live with God is the third book. What the great direct disciple Sri Ramakrishna Holy Mother said about our life, our particular value system in life, all the spiritual life, all those things are written. He also has written 2 big biographies, Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi and her divine play, and many other small books also. Anything is writing now?
I don't know.
Anyway, those are very popular books. It was all published by Vedanta Society of St. Louis, and afterwards we have an Indian edition also. Advaita Ashrama, Kolkata, they publish the books from there. With this, we very respectfully and heartily thank Swami Nirakaranji for giving his time to our students here, spending almost an hour talking to them and answering their questions. With the Shanti Mantra, we will. Yeah, we can talk. Yes, please. We'll end with the Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.